Welcome to Celtic Chalk Talk. My name's Steve Purciello, lifelong Celtic fan from the Bill Russell days to today. I've been around a bit, and what I will say is it's a great time to be a Celtic fan. Before we begin, I just want to remind you about the Peach Basket Network, which is what we're on. It's a fan-driven network. If you like what you're hearing here, go back and look into the website and look at other people who will record. It's all fan driven, so we encourage you to look at it. It's an organically growing thing on the Peach Basket. For the Celtics, after Philadelphia dispatched of the Orlando Magic, we realized we had Philadelphia last Wednesday night. Philadelphia coming to town should present some problems because you do have a Tyrese Maxey who can play and VJ Edgecomb. Now, we know Embiid is out for a while. We don't know when he'll be back. I don't expect he'll be back within the next week. So that's an important break for Boston, and it's good to have. Now, game one was just an interesting game. Boston won it easily, 123-91. Was Philadelphia ready to play? No. Did they shoot well? No. We'll get into that. It was a choppy game. There were a lot of whistles, but Boston just pummeled them. They played tremendous defense. Philadelphia was terrible. They shot 39% from the floor, 17% from three. Now, if you think it's going to be an easy series, which it could be, don't get thinking that Philadelphia's got nothing. Tyrese Maxey can go off at any time, and we all know he is an outstanding player. VJ Edgecomb is a very good player who will be a great one possibly someday. That's some talent. And Paul George is a good, steady veteran who still has something left in him. So this is not a pushover series, although game one indicated it was, because Philadelphia, again, was terrible. They weren't ready to play. Tyrese Maxey went 8 for 20, which is unheard of. He usually hurts Boston from inside and out. And what was very interesting about it was Maxey did not look to take the three. He usually hurts Boston with that step back three that he'll take from anywhere and just from beyond the line and just hurt you, and then he can go into the lane and just hit all kind of assortment of shots. He's such a great player, and he's so fast. He wasn't playing well, as was, well, the rest of the team when you're shooting 17% from three. The Philly didn't look like they wanted to take threes. I guess they felt they didn't have it going. Again, it's it's a nice win. It's a blowout, but don't think it's over. Remember the Lakers in '85, which is one of the worst things. Boston annihilated them in the first game in the finals. The Lakers came back and won that series. And that's just a reminder. I'm not saying Philly is the Lakers, but these things happen. And you just got to move on and play the next game like it's nothing in the series and just go and beat them up. Tatum had a tremendous game. He had a 25 and 11 with 7 assists, and he didn't play much in the fourth, so he could have had the triple-double. Jaylen Brown went off in the third quarter to put the game away. He had 26, 4, and 3. I think he had 14 in the third quarter. He didn't play the fourth quarter. What was an interesting situation, Philly cut the lead to 15, middle of the third. Boston came back on 2 straight possessions, hit threes, opened at 21, probably about 5 or 6 minutes left. I think Vukovich had the second one. Philly called timeout. At that point, you knew Philadelphia had nothing left. If they would have continued that, it could have been a ball game if they could have gotten it into the single-figure deficit, but they didn't. And when Boston hit those 2 threes, it was just like, goodbye, you're done. You don't have the energy to catch us, and it's over. Boston shot 16 for 44 from three, 36%. That's a normal Boston game. Nothing great, nothing bad, which is good because they'll have a hot one coming. 50% from the floor. Philly gave up so many straight line drives. Boston had layups left and right. Philly didn't defend real well. And you know what? They really didn't even get physical when they were losing. And that tells you something, because usually when a team's getting whipped like that in the playoffs, they're going to commit a hard foul or do something to just change the whole game around. They didn't. And also Philadelphia missed so many layups 2 and 3 times. There was a couple sequences where they had 2 or 3 layups and they missed them all. So they really weren't ready to play. Now, let's look at some other things. First of all, the playoff schedule for this next few weeks. Boston will play tomorrow night, Tuesday, and then Friday, and then Sunday. Those are the games we lock in on. Friday, Sunday are in Philly. Tomorrow night's in Boston. We can't say it's over. We want to say it's over because we want to move on and hopefully see the Knicks. But we can't. And we've got to take these games, as I said, one at a time. That's the key in this schedule. Put them away and move on. Now, Vukovich, I go back and forth on him. Some days I think he can help them so much because he can shoot and play so well. And he's not a great defender, but he can rebound. And then other days he doesn't. He had a 3 in this game, as I said before. And he was fair, but he's got to show more. He's got to show more because Garza is playing real well. What Boston doesn't have when they use Garza and Vukovich, they lose with Queta, is that ability, A, to intimidate around the basket, and B, to block shots. In fact, there was a situation where somebody was going to the basket. Garza tried to take a charge. Now, I understand that, and it's a good move. However, he's a big. He's supposed to block shots. So Boston has 2 viable offensive backups, but neither of them can be rim protectors. And that's a vital piece when you're trying to win a series. Well, I guess you go with Vukovich for now because he's been there, not in championship series, but he's been around so long he can play in these situations. But it's an interesting thing to watch because both of them can help Boston in different ways. Naturally, Queta got in foul trouble yesterday. He needs to stay on the court and he needs to stay out of foul trouble. The referees, they say playoff games are supposed to be called looser, in a way that they let people get away with a little more, and there's a lot more physicality. This game was not. The officials were blowing the whistle consistently and quite often and calling fouls as opposed to letting things go. And so consequently, we had a lot of fouls and a lot of slow stoppage where the game never got into a flow. That's not good, but it didn't matter. Boston was all the way on top. The other thing that I noticed, this is a little thing that kind of needs to be worked on. Brown, in isolation, when he goes into his dribbling, which is no problem because he usually gets a good shot out of it, but he's got to see the court. Because there's so many times where if he dribbles going from on the right side, dribbling right, which is what he usually does, the left corner is wide open. And he's got to begin to see that and take advantage of it because they're giving Boston the open 3, and Boston thrives on 3s. Now, if you're Missoula, you try to put one of your better corner shooters in that side, maybe a Shireman who can hit, or Hauser. And when you do that, you're going to force the defense to open up more, and it's going to give Brown more room. But it starts with Jaylen Brown throwing the pass. That's important. A couple other comments just in random about the playoffs. I was very fascinated by seeing Orlando take apart Detroit last night. It was a very interesting game. I thought the Orlando is a team that's going to give Detroit trouble because they play the same way. They're physical, and there's a lot of stoppages because of whistles being blown on fouls. And they became the bully, and it's very interesting. And Detroit has been the bully all year. Detroit didn't handle it real well. And that's something to watch because though I thought Orlando was dead after Wednesday night against Philly, they've come back, and they've come back in a big way. And we all know they might have some problems amongst them, but boy, they got talent. So they could be a problem if they can at least give Detroit a rough time, if not beat them. That's it for today. It's another great week. Great week to be a Celtic fan. And what I will say to Celtic fans is just remember back in the 90s and early 2000s, how bad it was. Enjoy this. It doesn't come all the time. And this has been fun the last couple of years, and hopefully it goes on for another couple of years. That's it for today. We'll be back again next week in another week of Celtic Chalk Talk. Thank you. Take care.